Hello, and welcome to Unco, a weekly interview podcast about what's unusual in tech. My guest this week was Christy Laurence, the CEO of Plann. She and I chatted about bootstrapping a high-growth startup, her experience building a software business as a non-technical founder, and marketing tactics she used for building a global brand organically. If you'd like to hear more interviews like this one and help keep Unco around, become a patron over at patreon.com/uncofm. Hey, Christy, how's it going?
Good, thanks. Hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's nice to have you on the show. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, just to start off, it might be helpful for my listeners if you could give maybe a little introduction to who you are and what you do, and yeah, let's just start with that.
Sure thing. So my accent's a little bit interesting because I'm from New Zealand but live in Australia, and I've founded an app that helps people with their Instagram. So it's called Plann, and it's an Instagram scheduling, analytics, and strategy tool. So it's a full Instagram suite that teaches businesses about lead generation and storytelling to make the most of social media accounts.
Yeah, and it has been it's been successful. It's been doing really well. I heard about it first, I don't know, maybe like a year ago, and then when a friend of mine introduced me to you, and he had kind of told me a little bit about it as well. I didn't know that you were the one who founded it until just recently.
Oh, that's great feedback.
Yeah.
As a founder, you can never get sick of hearing that. Yeah, so it's doing okay. So we've just hit 500,000 downloads in over 120 countries. And that was without any marketing spend. So there's a lot of kind of grunt work behind the scenes. And yeah, so building out a team now, I'm completely bootstrapped. And now a team of about 20 in 9 countries. So it is really exciting. I'm in like this really scary scaling part. But I love it. Like I love what I do. I'm one of those really annoying people that gets up at 5 a.m. to start work.
Yeah. That's cool though. That bootstrapping part is particularly interesting as venture capital has, I mean, for a while now, been what the default is. It's interesting to talk to somebody who chose not to go that path. Why did you choose to bootstrap it?
Well, when I first had the idea, so I'm a non-technical founder and I'd never been in a tech startup, and I just knew that I was really nerdy and I love tech, and I had this idea for an app. You know, those people that come to you and say, oh, I've got this idea for an app. Yeah. Everyone has their idea, right? Everyone has an app idea. But I'm one of those really crazy people that when I say I'm going to do something, like I'm actually going to do it. So I didn't actually know what a VC was. I was like, I'm just going to build an app, right? So
okay, well, that
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So when I decided, there was at a point where in my first week I made $10,000 in my first week of launch. I was like, oh whoa, there's something like this here, and I need to really look at this. And I decided to put myself through night school because I started to do a lot more research online and about pitching. And I was like, well, even if I don't raise money, it would be a great skill to have as a founder to understand what pitching is and how to do it for myself. So I put myself through pitch school. And that's when I kind of learned about investment. So here I am, a non-technical founder, female, no CTO, an offshore development team, and no tech experience ever.
Yeah.
There was probably no option for VC money at that point.
Yeah, and at that time, where were you living?
I was living in Sydney.
Okay.
And in my yoga pants in my spare room, just tapping away.
Yeah, and even that I'm sure makes it harder to get VC as well, because it's pretty concentrated here in the Bay Area and New York and a few other places. But
and in Sydney, there's a lot of push towards, there's a lot of fintech startups in Sydney.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the sweet spot, I feel, of Sydney. So when you come in with like a marketing tech or a tool that not that many people understand, because you have to have quite a specialized skill set to understand marketing and why my product would be differentiated from anything else.
Right.
So and the people that I did meet with, it was quite hard, and for when the first thing they'd say to me is, so what's Instagram? And I'll be like, oh no.
Really?
So, yeah, really. So I just thought,
wow.
You know what? Like the product's building so quickly, instead of meeting investors for coffee and projections and financials, which I had to teach myself from scratch because I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put my head down and just work. And that's what I did.
Wow, that's really cool.
Thank you.
And how I mean, kind of stepping back a second, how did you make 10 grand in the first week? Like, was it just without any marketing? Like, how did people know to download
so
it?
my background's marketing.
Oh, okay.
And I use my own product
Okay.
to build a community, a global community via Instagram and Facebook groups. And I, obviously, as a marketer, you have to know your person. So the more you understand about your customer, the more money you're going to make.
Right.
So I knew who my customer was, and then I went searching for who they looked to. So basically, what's now known as influencer marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to them. And social media, a lot of people misinterpret social media as, posting every single, having to post every day. But really, social media is about making relationships and, dare I say, making friends online.
Mm-hmm.
So when I took these people that I met who are influencers on the journey of building my business, when I launched, I had a wait list and I had 100 people in America mention my product on the very first day. And that's how I did it.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I've heard several people say that it's easier to build a successful product if you are a customer of that product because you understand who you're building it for. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I think, and I couldn't wake up every day to build a platform that I didn't like or want to use.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense when you're working on something and you're not excited to see the new features that are added because you want to use them yourself.
Exactly.
That definitely impacts the
But being bootstrapped has been pretty tough. So I did all the design of the app myself with no UI UX experience.
Okay.
And then got that offshored. So it has been really tricky and quite a long journey. But I mean, it's been probably the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah. No, I mean, it seems like it. You said a team of 20 something now and is that, are those contractors or is that employees?
It's a mixture. So I have about 5 or 6 on the books here in Sydney, and then we have contractors. So because we're in so many different countries, I have to look at how we service everybody. So Sri Lanka, we have expats in Sri Lanka who are in the best time zone for customer support.
Oh, right.
So I've got a couple of New Zealanders and South Africans that live in Sri Lanka that they're able to live like queens.
Right.
In Sri Lanka. And they go surfing all day and then work in the evening. So I love that I get to hire creative people and give them the flexibility to work to their own rhythm.
So you mentioned that you're a non-technical founder. How did you go about going from, like you said, everybody has an idea. Everybody goes to the technical person they know and say, let's build this app, right? But like, how did
and they look at you crazy and say, do you have $100,000?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way that I did it, I watched YouTube videos until my eyes popped out of my head to start with.
Okay.
And my background was in marketing, and I'd worked in a few digital agencies, so I understood the creative process of wireframing.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, cool. So wireframed out what I thought the app needed to be. And after doing a bit of reading and research, I completely accepted that NDAs in startup world don't exist. And I think that's obviously the first mistakes that people make. They're like, I can't share my idea with you.
Right.
So I jumped on Upwork and I popped my wireframes to a few agencies and said, could you make this? And they all came back with, oh, well, you know what, Christy, it's missing this or it's missing that. And I was like, perfect, there's my next iteration.
Right.
And I just kept doing that until I had something that was actually able to be quoted out. And then I hustled my way in Sydney and said to a couple of DevOps shops and agencies in Sydney and said, hey, you know what? If I come and work for you for free and do your marketing and your clients' marketing, will you teach me how to be a CTO and do sprints and manage a team and build an app? And they were like, I got lucky and one said yes. So that was how I built out my MVP.
Oh, wow.
And I unfortunately couldn't stay with them. There was a few issues going on there. So I decided, you know what, it's safer just to go out, get clean and have my own team. So I launched it and then of course I made that money. And that was how I was able to hire the second team and have the app completely rebuilt and relaunched with the new team. And that's how I learned how to build an app.
That's pretty impressive, to be honest, because there's a pretty steep learning curve and
oh yes.
Did you have people that you were able to kind of like reach out to who'd done
Absolutely
this
not.
before?
Absolutely not. I learned by mistake after mistake after mistake. And I decided at one point, so after I learned how to pitch, I had a couple of people go, they saw potential in me, which was really lovely. And one of them actually said, hey, Christy, I have a house in San Francisco. Would you like to move over for 3 months and just see what the valley's like and just experience startup land? And I jumped. I literally messaged her the next day, said, visas booked, flights booked, I'll see you next week. And I literally just packed up my stuff. I went home at midnight and woke my husband up and said, hey, I'm going to move to San Francisco for 3 months. There's an opportunity that's come up that I can't miss. And he thought I was crazy, but no, he knew I was serious. And I moved over to San Francisco for 3 months and just basically hustled my way through a whole bunch of different co-working spaces. And so many amazing people opened up their networks. And the best people I found were product managers. And the friend that actually introduced us to each other has become one of my main mentors for product now.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
I think he is for me as well. So I think he enjoys doing that.
Yes. Shout out to Ryan from episode 15.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. I'll link that in the show notes.
Very smart man.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And you guys should take a listen to that episode. He talks a good bit about product management and things that I've learned from him. So apart from the initial stage and bootstrapping and learning how to get to the point where you are now, what are you hoping to do next? Like, what do you want to build Plann into?
Well, it's funny you asked that. So right now we're on Apple and Android, so I have 2 web products. And then obviously I need to learn something else, right? I've already done and dusted that. So
right.
I decided to build Plann into a web app so that I can build into, instead of being B2C focused, we'll now be moving into a bigger B2B and an enterprise version.
Oh, good.
So we've got that, goes into beta this week, or alpha really, and then beta for our early adopters. And so the waitlist, we're looking at about 40,000 people. Wow. And that I really want to see that through, and then I'm going to give it 3 to 6 months, and then I'm probably going to reevaluate what happens after that.
Yeah,
but I'm really, really excited.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You were B2C originally, right? So the majority of your users were...
So I have a freemium product. Yeah, so I have a freemium product. So we do get a few people that just love to have their Instagram feed look good, and it's a hobby. But majority of my customers are small B2B. So you've got your mums on Etsy. And
okay.
So I taught my mum how to sell patchwork through Instagram. And then we have the small businesses and then brands. So anywhere from universities through to shoe shops, through to swimwear labels, KFC. There's some really big brands on the platform, and some actresses in Brazil that get work. And 40% now of the customers are American, and some of them have gone through to get their own TV shows through their Instagram feeds. So we've got some really amazing stories. The community is so strong, and everyone helps each other. So to be part of that movement and not have to be in front of the camera myself, it's really good. It's really fun.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you expect to branch out beyond Instagram?
I do eventually. So just because social media moves so fast, and so does tech, I think that having a 3-month roadmap is really all I can work to right now.
Yep.
I obviously have my big pie in the sky ideas of what I'd love to build with AI, and I am working with a few people, data scientists, on what I would eventually like to build and see if it's possible. And I think being a non-technical founder, you're able to think really imaginatively and have big open sky thinking, because you aren't limited to what you already know.
Right.
So I can go to a data scientist and say, I want to build this. How do I make a scatter approach? And what can my data do? So I am working with people that have really taken me on board and see me as a bit of an artist-inventor mindset.
Yep.
And they actually want to work with me. So that's been so humbling.
Yeah.
So like I said, 3-month roadmap for me, 3 to 6 months. But eventually I'd like to build out more than just Instagram. But for now, it's going to be the home of and suite for Instagram.
Figure out how you, not clear on even how to ask this question, but I'm trying to figure out how you grew from, obviously you launched really well, and you used your marketing skills to get this in front of people who had an audience, and you built something that those people wanted to use themselves. But you've mentioned that you didn't really do any marketing spend to get to where you are right now. is that really just kind of using your own tool and using your own approach on social media, how you found growth to get to where you are now?
Yeah, so I consider myself a bit of a scrappy startup founder. So
right.
Back me into a corner and I'm going to get as creative as possible to get out because I have no other option. And so what I did is I learnt through reading blogs what on earth growth marketing even was. And because of my background in marketing, I ended up in my marketing career specializing in what's known as direct response.
Yep.
And I don't know if you're aware of direct response, but it's about creating action immediately and testing and optimizing and just rinse, repeat, testing anything from call to actions to colors to messaging to creative artwork. So there's so many different elements that make up testing and marketing, and it's so crucial because people think that they do one set of Facebook ads and then they go, oh, it didn't work, then Facebook ads didn't work, without understanding how many different tests that you actually need to do to learn. So with that knowledge, I then did an online course at night, which is literally between 1 and 3 a.m. for my time zone, in growth marketing with a mentor from 500 startups. And I was part of a pilot program that he was running, and I got introduced to Justin Mez from the book Traction, and I literally engrossed myself in the growth community for a while and learnt just different ways. So I haven't done any cold email either, and a lot of it's been leveraging what I learnt there. Like, for example, SEO was a really big one. So teaching myself SEO, where I grew from 1 blog post a week to doing 3 blog posts a week to getting 500,000 hits on my website a month, and then putting up 5 posts a week. We actually lost traffic because our domain authority went down, to then going back to 3 blog posts and changing the type of content. So instead of posting about thought leadership, I'd post how-tos. And now we get over 1 million page views a month just to our website. And then that's just organically grown through testing and understanding your audience. And like I said, the more you know about your people, then the more money you make. And I really, really strongly stand by that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So as far as types of, you mentioned blogging, you obviously use Instagram. What other tools are you using out there to basically spread the word if you're not buying
so
ads?
Inside, there's a lot of people that talk about building virality into your own product. And for example, if anyone has my app, or if you download it and open the workspace that you actually drag and drop and design your Instagram feed in, which is the secret sauce of the app, really, one of the best features. There's our logo, so the Plann logo sits in that workspace. Now, if you've done standard UI UX design, you'd be told, remove your logo from the screen constantly, because anyone that has a UI UX background tells me, they look at my app and go, this hasn't been designed to UI. And I'm like, I know it's not. It's on purpose. And they just haven't understood. So say, for example, Tim, you are selling ice cream, and you have this beautiful feed about ice cream and you want to tell the world about it. You will screenshot your plan, which is inside my app, and you'll put it inside a Facebook group and say, what do you think about this? So it has your username in it, plus my logo. So when this gets posted into a Facebook group with, say, 80,000 people, someone will say, what app is that?
Right.
And the logo's right there, so no one has to do any work. So that for me was one of the biggest positives and advantages that I learned that I had.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that goes right back to knowing who your customer is, right?
And what they do, because I knew they were going to screenshot and share it with their friends and say, what do you think of this aesthetic?
Exactly.
Have I used the wrong filter? What do you think of my hashtag sets? All these things inside Plann that I knew that they would be sharing to get validation and feedback from, I made sure the logo was right there.
Yeah, it ties right back into what we were saying from the beginning. If you didn't know them that well, then you would just follow the quote unquote rules of what good UX or UI is. But in reality, I guess if knowing the rules and knowing your customer, you should be breaking the rules in the way that benefit your customer and benefit your business.
Yeah. And one of the things to differentiate ourselves, so I'm quite quirky and I have quite a bit of personality, and so I pull that through into my product. So all of our comms and all of our language is very quirky. It doesn't sound corporate. It definitely is not professional. And we tell jokes, and And, does your Instagram feed look like a dog's breakfast? Consider yourself, you grab a napkin, let's clean it up. Like, it's very random and quite catchy. And I put it through everything, like even to the point where I have a list of 100 update notes that developers can use. If it's just an update inside the App Store, it's another place, it's another customer touch point.
Right.
So everything is consistent. So we're like, this update has got lots done under the hood. Consider it a V8 engine trapped in a mini, vroom vroom. Like, just something completely random.
Right.
So that people will differentiate it. And so many people, when they write about the app, so they'll request and say, do you have a media kit that we can write about your app? Which is, again, that was actually another one of my growth hacks, was I kept advertising. If you're looking for content, like, quickly, we'll send you out our high-res pack, and you can show people how you use the app and design your feed, because this is one of the top search phrases on SEO right now. Get involved. And we ended up with over 1,500 backlinks within our first 6 months just by doing that.
I mean, it makes sense. One other thing I was interested in is, like, you have a free plan, right? Like a base plan.
Yeah, we're freemium.
Yeah. So that other conversion is interesting to me, because a lot of people do have that, but then, like, a lot of apps out there struggle to get their free customers to convert. How have you worked on that in particular? Once you've already got them to download the app and begin using it, and they know who you are, how do you make them? How do you make them pay?
Not
make them, right? Because you want to provide value with the freemium app too, because
Sure.
That adds to the virality of it and all of that. But how do you make it valuable enough that people are sharing this, like, free tool with their friends and family, right? And then also clear enough that it's worth upgrading?
So the B2C people, so there's a lot of, say, for example, fashion bloggers and beauty bloggers, right?
Right.
And they are really interested, but they've got a job and they're really busy. So they just really want to make sure their grid on Instagram looks good. Because if you're on Instagram, a lot of people don't understand it's actually all about the aesthetic of your grid. So once someone has clicked on your name, you've got 1 or 2 scrolls of them looking up and down your feed before they decide if they'll follow you or not. And if they don't understand what you do within 2 seconds, then the likelihood of them reaching up and hitting follow and becoming part of your lead generation tool, then the lower you are. So what I wanted to do was give people complete control of how that looked. So people can come in and they can come in and design their grid and find hashtags. So we have a way that I try and teach people what hashtags they should be choosing with color-coded hashtags inside the app. So those pieces are both free. So anyone that uses Instagram can come in and learn the basics of how to grow an account and make money. So then when they realize that that's actually starting to work, there are so many paid tools. For example, there's a strategy section where you can design out a story. So with Instagram, again, it's selling a lifestyle. It's not about putting your portfolio out into the world and saying, hey, buy my stuff. It's about taking people on the journey of your business, being human and being vulnerable, educational, inspirational, creating a community. And so the strategy tool that's been built in helps you choose what things to talk about to then get more people involved in your company. So that's one of our paid tools. There's limited analytics, so you can see roughly what you're doing that's working, but if you want full overview, you can go back as a lifetime 3 months and really dig down into the data, which is, if you're a company, then you would need to pay for those.
Right.
And there's special features that I've built in that tries to teach people. Like, for example, I saw so many people making mistakes on Instagram where companies or people would put photos of their cocktails out taken in a bar, and it's this dark, dingy orange light, you can barely see anything, and they just don't work. And I just kept thinking to myself, how can I teach people that this doesn't work? So what I did is, in the analytics, you can go back and search for your best performing posts, and then it will tell you the color schemes of those images. So you can learn that the brighter, bluey, greeny colors work better. And those types of tools, and you can even do that with your competitors. You can jump in and steal their hashtags. You can look at their colors and see when their best times to post are. So any of those more advanced tools, I was like, you know what? Like, yes, there's value in the free plan, but once you start seeing what else you can do inside here, like, let's convert, grow faster, build it out quickly, get more leads, and yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, that's a really long-winded answer, but you can also share across devices and team members. So paying also means you get access to the server, so you can have more than one. So if I was to kind of put that all in a nutshell, it's like, okay, well, are you a business and are you serious or not? And if you're serious, then you need to pay.
Right, but if you just want to have a tool for a personal one that you're not trying to make money off of, but you just want it to look good, then you've created a good tool for those people too, and they become I don't know, part of, as more people are using it like that and sharing it, then they're part of your growth strategy as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of moving on from that, I'm interested in. I actually just interviewed somebody who works as an enterprise product manager, and he lives on the East Coast. And so we talked a good bit about the differences between working in tech on the East Coast versus here in San Francisco or the Bay Area. And I kind of want to have a similar conversation with you, as with you being on the other side of the world. What do you see as different? What do you see as valuable about not being here? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts? Well, I've spent probably roughly 4 or 5 months so far in Silicon Valley in the last year. Okay. And there are some really big differences. So the pool of talent's obviously smaller. So if you're looking for people to hire, it's very, very small and very competitive. I'd say more competitive than over there, because the skill set, you're paying more money for people with less experience because they just simply don't exist. So my way of getting around that was hiring smart people that were good at what they did and then teaching them. So for example, I took an Instagram marketer and I taught her growth hacking, and I pulled her in and taught them myself. So as a Bootstrap founder, I didn't really have any other options. So that's one example. You just can't compete with those bigger, $50,000 sign-on bonus type situations.
Yeah, yep.
It's just no option. The community here is quite small. I mean, everyone's very, very helpful, but the level of knowledge, like you can't find someone who's had 3 exits that's sitting in a co-working space that you can chat to. Like that just doesn't exist. Right, that doesn't exist. The intros are harder to come by. Everyone knows each other. It's very small. And one unicorn coming out of Australia, which is Canva, it's just completely different. And I think the biggest thing for me was learning that here in Australia, if you're pitching for investors, and this is probably my experience, it could be different from founder to founder, but my experience was, how much revenue are you making? And then based on that, we'll look at investing. Where over in Silicon Valley, it's, unicorn or bust. How many users do you have? What's your growth rate? We don't even care if you're not making money. Right. It's get as many users and then give them a year for free, and then let's just make them all pay. Like that's kind of what I feel. But here, it's more, how much money are you making? And then we might invest.
So do you see it being more focused on building a sustainable business versus betting that 1 out of every 100 of their investments here will become a unicorn? Is that the difference?
I believe so. I think the money is just different. Like the money in Silicon Valley is just insane. Yeah. It's just, I just can't even comprehend some of the conversations that I've heard, and I come home and I laugh about it with people here, and we just go, oh yeah, #heard in Silicon Valley. Right. And just, we won't invest because we only invest in $1 billion exits, and you look like you're going to be 100 million, so that's a no from us. Like just things like that just don't make any sense over here.
Yeah, that is not uncommon here for sure. And I think for me, I've only been in San Francisco for I guess almost 2 years now, but for me that was that's part of what's exciting about being here is just there are obviously a lot of problems about the Bay Area, but the scale of ambition, it was surprising to me, even though kind of I knew that from reading about it, being here and hearing those type of conversations, not being irregular and being like, literally having people tell me when things that I was talking about back in the southeast of the U.S. and people there being like, oh, that's like that's kind of a big ambition or a big goal, and then coming here and literally the responses to that being, your sights are too low. Like you're nowhere close to high enough goals for yourself.
Yeah, your vision's not big enough.
Right. Right. And so I think, at least for now, that is part of what's keeping me here. Is I want to be surrounded by those people so I can kind of learn how to have a vision that large and how to implement it. Right.
I do really miss that, because I mean, even when you're talking to people, when you go out at night to these growth marketing meetups or product meetups, which is where I spent a lot of time, the people have some of those people that you meet have the biggest ideas you've ever heard of, and it's just amazing. And you know, being here, I share an office space with another female founded app, which is amazing. And we are just, you know, working on revenue, so we don't get to be surrounded. We work on scaling a revenue based business instead of being around that really imaginative founder visionary. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
That has its pros, obviously. It also has its cons and and can lead to lead to some not so good things. But
it can.
Yeah.
But I think as a bootstrapped, it's a little bit different, because without the revenue, I can't run my business. So as I grow, I can only hire as I grow, rather than get, you know, $10 million dumped on me and build out a whole team and then try and stay afloat. So it's such different challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's also a lot of benefits to being bootstrapped. I was just reading the other day about how a founder's equity is diluted as they go through each round, and the amount that you like a given founder has to exit at, like the exit has to be after each round to basically make the same amount of money as if they'd exited after round one. And it's just insane how much growth there has to be between each round for the founder to end up with the same amount of cash at the end.
Yeah, it is very different. So I'm still 100% equity owner in my business, and I have had a chat to my staff and said, look, if I ever look to sell or if I look to raise, I'll change that and get equity sorted out for everybody. But right now, I'm more comfortable having everybody on a really nice salary, because I don't want them to think there's equity involved where I know in my heart they're not going to get anything out of it. So it is a hard place to be. So for me at the moment, I view Plann as more of a lifestyle business right now. So I can travel with my laptop. I can take time off if I want. Not that I do, because I'm an obsessive workaholic. But I'm taking the team to Bali to celebrate the launch of our web app, so we can all take our laptops and there's no one to kind of question the decisions. So there are definitely some advantages.
Yeah, for sure. So what is one thing that you find unusual in tech right now?
I think I touched on it earlier. Was the biggest thing is the difference between the two countries. That's kind of the first thing. But the biggest thing for me is coming from a non-technical founder perspective. Mm-hmm. I am so surprised still at how hard it is for non-technical people to build a product and how long development takes. Like the environments that have been made to build businesses are so time reliant on somebody coding. Yep. I just feel that for me, like, why has no one solved that? Why is there no new environment? Why is it a handwritten coder that has to build a business for you? Like, I feel like there's something in there and I'm not smart enough to solve it. But I feel like there is people out there that are smart enough to solve that problem, and I find that really intriguing. And I wonder, like, is it to stop more businesses? Is it so that coders always have a job? Or for me, that's what I find really unusual.
Yeah, I think, oh man, I'm forgetting the name of it. There's definitely a company who's focused on basically making it really easy to build like web apps, and it kind of takes it up a layer away from typical development to more. It's not quite like a Squarespace drag and drop type thing. I will find this and put it in the show notes, but I'm completely blanking on the name.
It's okay. I know there's a couple of web app ones, but I'm talking like I've got a girlfriend that's like, I want to build this product. And in my head, I'm like, okay, you want to build a SaaS product, a global SaaS product. And she's like, where do I start? And I'm like, you need $100,000 and you have to hire a dev team and you have no idea what to do because you don't know how to hire a dev team. Like
but at some point, right? If the technology gets to the point where it isn't that difficult, then the level of competition is going to be insane. And I'm not sure that a company would be able to I just feel like it would be very difficult to differentiate if every person who had an idea didn't have to go through that struggle that you went through to learn that and to put the time and the effort in to really grow that. Because if you can just drag and drop and have it, then the level of competition is going to be really high. And then the people who win are going to be those who can do something on top of that, probably custom or some other sort of differentiation. It could be branding that.
Yeah. It'd probably end up being partnerships with other brands and how to incorporate it into people's everyday lives. Like, do they use home technology and does it match with everything else?
Right,
and
yeah.
Their lifestyle thing. So I understand what you're saying, but I have an abundance mindset where I'm like, well, if you have an idea and you can differentiate and you're smart enough, then you'll be fine. And a lot of people say they want to do it, but they don't realize actually how much work goes in aside from the tech. So I completely understand 100% what you're saying, but for me, I just found it really intriguing that it is so difficult still for the amount of people that have ideas. Like we were saying earlier, everyone's like, I have an idea for an app, but it's just still so hard to get it done.
Your point is valid. It's still very, very difficult, and I think we have already seen an abstracting up of what development is, and we're just going to continue to see that. Like what developers do today is very different than what developers did 15 years ago.
I just wish I could get myself in the microwave and teleport myself 300 years away and see what it all looks like.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be here. That would be
hopefully we'll still be on Earth.
Right. Yeah, that would be cool. I don't know if we're going to live 300 years, but you never know. You never know. That was really all I had. Where can people find you on the internet?
So the wonderful world of the web, you can find me at plannthat.com. So PLANN that.com is where we are on Facebook, on the web, and Instagram.
Yeah.
So if you can, the only reason we're on those is that one of the best tips that I help startups with is that there's so many people that scattergun approach and be on every channel, but for me it's about being on a channel and doing it well. So we're only on the 3.
Yeah, no, that's great. That makes a lot of sense. If you're not going to be able to put a lot of time into it, then it ends up, at least from my perspective, and I've done that before, where I started a small side project or something and made like 7 accounts on all the different things, and then didn't really do much with any of them, or only focused on one, and then the others end up being more of a hurt to your brand, because
exactly
people associate you with this poorly run Facebook page or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and if anyone's listening, downloads the product or gives it a whirl, I am an obsessive founder that loves feedback. So if you have any, send it through.
Yeah, definitely do. And I have it downloaded on my phone. I haven't tried to grow my Instagram, but I'm going to try it out and see what it's like and learn from that.
Amazing.
Yeah, and you guys can find me on Twitter at TimothyBuckSF, and you can find Unco on Twitter at _UncoFM. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Christy. It was a lot of fun.
No problem. Thanks for having me.